Hello there. You're welcome to yet another interesting episode of Amoi Unplugged, an interactive program that focuses on the efforts and milestones geared towards the diversification of our nation's economy. I am Chioma IKEJIANI. Thank you for joining me. Now, you may be wondering, what does she have in store today? Well, this is a must-watch. This episode takes you into the world of mines and steel, the roadmap for growth and development, strategies, and the efforts being made to turn around this sector. My guest, a consummate professional, a focused and dynamic leader with over 3 decades of experience, is one that is so passionate about exploring all the mineral deposits in Nigeria, as well as ensuring that the sector is contributing immensely to the nation's economy. He is the Honorable Minister of Mines and Steel Development, Olamilekan Adegbite. Don't go away, it's Amoi Unplugged, Exploring Diversity. Welcome to Amoi Unplugged. You know, I have been wanting to interview for such a long time, and I want to thank you for welcoming my crew and I. And now, we have been talking about the journey so far. When you were nominated, the inauguration, and actually what it's been like for you. So how has this journey been so far?
Well, it's been a learning experience. So far, so good. It's been fun. People have been gracious to me, so I've availed me their knowledge. So I've learned a lot and I'm still learning. So it's been a wonderful journey so far, and it's a discovery.
Once you came in and you got the full reins of the ministry, one of the things that I'd like you to talk about is the roadmap for the growth and development of the Nigerian mining industry. Give me a little bit about that roadmap and what is it that Nigerians should expect from it?
The moment my portfolio was announced and I got here, I got a lot of literature from people. There's this professor from the University of Ibadan who's quite conversant with the ministry, and a few other people. People were just gracious, and they sent me a lot of literature about the ministry. One of those is the roadmap itself. The roadmap essentially, it's a document, because prior to that time, to the roadmap itself, Nigerian government had focused mostly on oil and gas, and the mining industry had been in decline until the advent of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. He started putting more focus. Everybody's been talking about diversifying the economy and all that, but lip service. But when he came in, he put more effort into that, pumped money into that sector for the first time. And that's what gave birth to this roadmap itself. A lot of experts, a lot of effort went into that. And basically, this is a plan that looked at the immediate, the medium, and the long-term plan for the sector, looking at 2015 to 2025.
Okay.
Basically, that's what the plan is all about. And the steps to achieve certain
Milestones.
yes, milestones on that. And of course, with some tinkering, because even 2015 to date is a long time, we've had to tinker with it, with present realities. But it's been the Bible that we're following.
The miners, how did they respond to the roadmap?
Well, the roadmap itself predates me in my being in office, but everybody was involved. All stakeholders were involved in the roadmap itself. The academia, the practitioners,
Okay.
the artisanal miners, Nigerian Miners Association. So everybody had an input in it, into the roadmap itself. So it was something that was widely accepted, and everybody looked forward to it. So it's a good thing.
And there was another roadmap, and you've often talked about it, which is the roadmap for economic corridor development. Tell me a little bit about that, because that to me involved ports and roads and railways. But I'd like you to sort of tell my audience what the economic corridor development roadmap is about.
That's actually a fallout of the roadmap itself. One of the ways to develop our mining is actually using mining to create those economic corridors in Nigeria. Mining in itself, goes beyond just taking the minerals out of the ground, but adding value and, of course, putting them to use in industry. That's what it's all about. And it was all about creating clusters or hubs where mining activity could come together,
Okay.
Do beneficiation, and of course, the product ends up in the right industry, with import substitution and all that. That's what the economic corridors were all about. And what we essentially identify was, I say, mining occurred in certain areas, and although mining itself requires a lot of infrastructure, power being a major one, road, rail network for evacuation, and of course, recently we've been looking at the waterways as well. So this is what the economic corridor is all about. Processing the materials, the minerals that come up from the ground, and not just exporting them the way they are, but creating economic activity out of this, the mining itself, the mining activity.
I'd like you to talk about one of those minerals that you are developing, which is barite. Earlier this year, the Ministry of Mining and Steels had a stakeholders meeting on the roadmap for barite development. I'd like you to talk about what are the positions of things. I think you want to develop that because you want to make sure that there's no capital flight. But what is the position in terms of developing that mineral?
Well, essentially, what barite's development is all about, which is an initiative of mine. When we came in, we realized that, a lot of minerals are bound in Nigeria, but we're not actually taking them to the market. So what I named was just like barite, taking the barite from the mine to the market. That's what I call that project. And I had a consultant to work with me on that. What this essentially entailed was that, we realized that Nigeria was spending about $300 million every year to import barite. Barite, of course, is in the oil and gas industry. It's part of the drilling mud that is used in exploration for oil. We import that into the country about $300 million every year. And look, Nigeria has a lot of barite. And in the past, attempts were made by the government to ban importation of barite and substitute with a local one. But it did not work. Because the work was not done bottom up.
Okay.
What government thought was, at that time, was, look, let's stop importation and then we'll substitute with a local one. But without the right inputs at the local level, there was no way you could substitute the import.
That's correct.
And what I did was I studied the gaps there, and I realized that the problem was actually not the mining. We have a lot of people mining barite. The problem was actually in the value chain. How to have the value to it. One of the problems then, and the complaint from the end user was that, look, the barite itself was not well blended. There's certain specification. It must come with some fine powder, so that when they use it in drilling mud, it doesn't affect their rig and spoils that. Most of these contractors who do the drilling, a lot of them hire the rig, and maybe at $100,000 per day or per hour, you don't want any downtime. And if your barite is not to the
Right.
correct specification, it affects the drill, and you have to bring out the drill, repair it and all that, it could give you a downtime of several hours or even several days. So one of the reasons why they rejected the local one. So one of the things I did was that to bring in a consultant, somebody who had worked in the industry before with Barite, to guide us on the road to the market. The first thing is to ensure the quality of Barite that we're getting from the mines, because it comes in different specific gravity, and there's some that's acceptable. We get the right quality. We'll do the milling. It's crushing and milling. Not to the right specification, and of course, finally, bagging. They also complained about the bagging at that time. So we thought there was room for entrepreneurs to come in here, people to build the mills. There are some existing mills we identified. Also, there was room for other people to come in, build the mills, and at the same time, there was no bagging at all, in the industry. So we needed to standardize the bagging, and then some entrepreneurs to come in and provide that. Basically, that's what the whole project is all about, and we've gone far on that.
So you're creating entrepreneurs,
yes.
Revenue generation, which is the next thing that I'd like you to speak about. I know that President Buhari has tried to find ways for us to do economic diversification, which is where you come in. Now, having said that, I'd like you to talk a little bit about the revenue targets that you have in terms of your medium, low, and long-term targets. So if you were to educate us, when you look at revenue generation, what are your targets and what are you doing to address revenue generation in your ministry?
Well, revenue generation actually from the sector is measured in terms of our contribution to GDP. And mining in the 60s, 50s was doing about 3% to 5% of the GDP of Nigeria. And of course, a lot of proceeds from mining was used to develop the infrastructure we enjoy today. But since the advent of oil and gas, we seem to have left that behind. And as of 2008, the mining industry was contributing about 0.03% to the GDP. And even according to the roadmap, we set a target for ourselves that by 2025, that's 5 years down the line, we want to be at 5% of the GDP. Right now,
do you think it's doable?
It's doable because right now we're doing like 0.5, 0.6. We've come from 0.03. We're now at about 0.6, 0.8 to the GDP. And also, we also found that our contribution to GDP was not being properly calculated. We're also working on that.
Okay.
But more than that, the effort has started, like I said, with the roadmap, with intervention funds. We realized where the gaps were. We needed to have proper miners in the industry. Right now, about 85% of mining in Nigeria to 90% is mostly artisanal miners. Most of these people do not contribute anything to government. What they realize, what they win, they sell without recourse to government because they're quasi-legal. I don't want to come illegal. So what we realize, we're trying to organize that, something we'll talk about later. But for our revenue generation, we realize that we need to have the proper miners who will pay royalty to government to increase our base. And of course, one of the ways to do that was the NIMEP we're doing and so many other things. Correcting with the Bureau of Statistics that there are other income from the mining sector, which is not classified to mining, it's classified into industry. And one of that is the cement industry. The major material in the cement is the limestone. It comes from mining. It's only about 90% of the materials there.
Wow.
So a lot of contribution comes from mining into the cement industry, which is classified strictly as industry. So a portion of it should actually be classified to us. And all the efforts of the past are coming to crystallize, and I think it's something that's doable. By 2025, we should be able to achieve that 5% of GDP as planned.
The mining industry is one sector that is fast developing. With the abundant mineral deposits in the country, the Nigeria Mining Cadastre Office, a parastatal of the Federal Ministry of Mines and Steel Development, was established by the Nigeria Minerals and Mining Act of 2007 to administer and manage mineral titles in Nigeria. The agency issues, renews and revokes mineral titles and permits, including reconnaissance permit, exploration license, small-scale mining lease, quarry lease and water use permit.
Illegal mining is a crime and a punishable offense. Do the right thing. Obtain your license from the Mining Cadastre Office.
For inquiries, visit our website on www.miningcanister.gov.ng or send an email to info@miningcanister.gov.ng. Nigeria Mining Canister Office. Use it or lose it.
One of the things that I'd like to talk about, I'm a little bit excited about this, is the National Gold Purchase Scheme. What are the main features of the scheme, and what has been the impact on artisanal miners that you've talked about?
Yeah, the gold scheme is actually about artisanal miners. It's actually called, and small-scale miners, of course, PAGMI, that's the acronym, Presidential Artisanal Gold Mining Initiative. That's what PAGMI stands for. And what can give you that immediate, gratification, or in terms of resources, is gold. The artisanal miner finds a nugget of gold there, and he can sell it immediately. Unlike other things, you don't find a clump of lead or
coal,
other things and sell. Nobody's going to buy that from you.
Right.
You need to have a large volume. But for gold, even the little bit you have has a value that the man can convert immediately. So most of the artisanal miners in Nigeria are actually engaged in gold mining. So what government said is, look, government is not benefiting anything from this. And of course, there have been a few incidents in the past. We had lead poisoning, mercury poisoning in the north. That was in Zamfara, and a lot of kids died. Where because out of ignorance, to process what they mine, and they were using the same mortar for their grains to also...
Which was poisonous.
Yeah, which was poisonous, to also crush the gold. And of course, it led to a lot of that. Anyway, government decided that it was best to organize these people. Government will benefit from organizing them because, you see, it will reduce unwanted death. Also, it would train them and at the same time bring them into the fold. We help their productivity. Government benefits by controlling their activity, and we now realize our own revenue from them, because then they come into the fold and they pay the royalty deal. That's what it's all about. And the project was actually planned around 5 states that are gold producing, and that is Zamfara, Kebbi, Niger, Kaduna, and Osun states. The other states that produce gold, but these states were actually chosen as the pilot phase. And of these 5, we started with Osun and Kebbi to start with. And of course, the project is going far. The whole essence is to identify who the artisanal miners are. We'll go out to the field, we'll identify them, of course, to get their biometrics and all that. Because there's also, at the end, internationally, nobody will buy gold from you if it's blood gold and all that.
Right.
They want to know your source and make sure it's legit. So basically, that's what PAGMI is all about. Identifying the guys who mine it, and of course, taking that gold through the process of refining and taking it to the bullion level. At the bullion level, the CBN is the major off-taker. CBN now can put a lot of their, some of their reserves, instead of in dollar, to put it in gold. That's what the PAGMI is all about. Organize the artisanal miners, take their winning and pay them properly. And of course, now take it through the value chain to the bullion. And the bullion at the end of the day can be taken by CBN.
So bring it into a more formal setting.
Yes, to formalize them, organize them, and by formalizing and organizing them, we also avail them of so many opportunities, equipment, fund, training.
Wow.
Yes, those are
so you're actually investing in them?
Yes, investing in them.
Wow.
By investing in them, like I said, we reduce the unnecessary debt, and we increase their productivity and government benefits in terms of revenue. So it's a win-win situation.
How are you collaborating with state government in terms of checkmating those that don't want to be formalized, that want to exploit the poorest situation? How are you collaborating with state government and security agencies to make sure that the monies that are brought from our land actually goes to the coffers of both the state and the federal government?
Artisanal miners are strictly Nigerians. Non-Nigerians can be artisanal. So,
I did not know that.
For us to categorize you as artisanal, you have to be a Nigerian who is involved, albeit illegally, but we don't consider you illegal. So, for us to call you an artisanal miner within Nigerian space, you have to be a Nigerian.
Wow.
Any other person, any other foreign national is illegal. So, we do not mix the two. But often, the illegal one rides on the back of activities of the artisanal miners. The artisanal miners are working, and that's where the gap was. And government realized that. The artisanal miners are working, the foreigners come in, and they see the gap. They provide the services that government is now providing for them. They give them equipment, they use them as labor. Whatever they realize, they buy from them. Of course, they cheat them out of that because they don't buy at the right value. That's why government is trying to come in and win these artisanal miners off the illegal miners so we can separate them. If you win the artisanal miners off the illegal miners, everybody stands out clearly now. You can see the legal miners and they cannot hide behind the activity of the artisanal miners. The illegal miners are essentially foreigners who come into our shores, and of course, without the proper licensing, they go out there and then they begin to mine. Of course, when they do that, because they're not properly registered, whatever they realize does not go to the system, it's not recorded, it's not captured in the data, and of course, they export such proceeds. And also, it had other implications in terms of security and all that. The fund from such was being used to fund some other illegal activity. So, how are we coping with that? There's cooperation with the state government. Only the federal government has jurisdiction in mining, but we're involving the states. There's a body we call Miremco. It's actually a body set up by a governor in a state of stakeholders in the mining industry, which the chairman is directly nominated by the governor, and that's the body that works with the ministry to monitor the activity in that state. They report any infraction to us, and we can take action on that. That was set up by the president through the intervention fund, the mine surveillance police. So we have our own police, and then we have collaboration with all the people. The mine surveillance police is made up of the police itself, the Nigerian police, civil defense corps, are also part of that. And at times, we have to bring in the military.
Was that recently set up?
No, that's been on for a while.
Okay.
I think that was 2017.
Okay. Within this administration?
Yes. Well, President Buhari, like I said, before then, not much was actually done there. That does not take away that people actually they try their best. I must not discount the efforts of past ministers. But for an administration that actually put money there, apart from budgetary allocation, but budgetary allocation will just, scratching the surface. It won't get you anywhere. You had to have some other funds, extra budgetary, for you to make the impact, and that's what President Buhari did to make a difference in the sector.
Okay. Since we're talking about gold, one of the things I'd like you to talk about is the mineral export guideline. We're aware that the Ministry of Finance had a consultative meeting in it. What is the position of that, and when is this going to be implemented?
Well, the mineral export guideline, the new one, has been codified.
Okay.
And, yes.
What does that mean?
Well,
codified.
It's been codified because, you see, it involved a lot of stakeholders, inputs and all that.
Yeah.
So everything's been put together and it's made into like a law. It is a booklet for it. It's been published. Now, all that is left, because the new mining export guideline insists that there must be a pre-shipment inspector.
Oh.
That is, there must be pre-shipment inspection. In the past, somebody wants to export minerals, you just take it there. Somebody that's actually exporting silver can say it's lead.
Oh, how about the form?
Yes. Oh, they put it in the container and all that. And the guy at the other end doesn't know any better. The royalty on silver is a lot higher than if I'm saying I'm exporting lead zinc and all that. So now there must be pre-shipment inspection. And these are experts who have the right machines to test what you are bringing, and they can now make sure you're paying the right royalty due to government. Basically, this is just the last stage. As soon as the pre-shipment inspection agents are identified, they're employed, the terms of reference and terms of employment and their own remuneration is established, then we can begin to, we can launch this formally to the public and all that. But everybody was involved in the formulation of it. As I said, it's codified because there were a lot of inputs from different diverse sources and all. So basically, the last leg of that is to appoint a shipment inspection agent. Once such a body is appointed, we can launch the program and then we'll go into that new regime. Basically, what you're doing is that you're putting somebody with knowledge at the point of exportation so that they can say, yes, this is what you're exporting and this is what you should have paid. They have knowledge and all that, and they make sure Nigerian gets its due. Basically, that's the last bit.
This is a ministry that can really help in terms of creating better budget, but Having said that, I think that there are challenges and bottlenecks that I would like you to share with our audience.
The most important thing in life is change. And you see, and that's where you find the reluctance.
Yeah.
It's normal and it's human to resist change. And that's what we're trying to push through. You know, we've done certain things in certain ways over a long period. And we're saying, look, this is the new normal. This is a new way of doing things. And one of that is actually going online, using technology for our activities. This, of course, brings a lot of transparency into the process. A lot of things that have been done manually in the past with a lot of opacity, we're saying, let's go online. So if a man is applying for explosive license from Abia, the moment he applies online, I can pick it up on my table.
Wow.
Without, there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of... So there's been a lot of reluctance in terms of even in-house personnel to adapt to these new realities that we need to go with technology.
Yeah.
Also, for us to begin to be considered as a mining nation, we need to get them, the big miners here, the juniors, the majors, and of course the medium-sized companies in mining into Nigeria before we consider as a mining nation. Fortunately, we have at least 2 major success stories on that. We have the Tor Explorations, that's the Seguela Gold in Osun. And we have this indigenous, that's the one actually that excites me more. The Multiverse company, they're in Nasarawa, they are mining lead zinc and all that. It's an indigenous company quoted on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Seguela Gold is quoted on the Canadian Stock Exchange. So
wow.
Those are 2 companies that are actually doing...
Indigenous?
Yes, the Multiverse
wow.
is indigenous. It's quoted on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. You can buy shares and trade their shares on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And they're doing very well. They've got proper shaft mining about 250 meters down in Nasarawa there, where they're mining. That's in Nasarawa States. So that's a success story. That's the kind of story.
That's amazing.
Yes, we're taking
just hold it right there. We're going to be back with Amoi Unplugged.
Ever heard of Mine Diver? It is the mineral sector's support for economic diversification, a World Bank-funded project of the Federal Ministry of Mines and Steel Development. The Mine Diver project is geared towards strengthening mining governance and institutions, enhancing opportunities for value chain addition and development of mineral chains, providing technical assistance and access to financing for artisanal and small-scale miners, as well as building linkages for sector development, amongst others.
The project has upgraded the mining cadastral office to the extent that investors can request for mining titles from abroad or from their homes. The project has also established 6 offices in the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. In exploration, we have assisted the Geological Survey Agency in organizing itself to identify necessary gaps, and we are funding some of the equipment for their laboratory in Kaduna. We have contracted the British Geological Survey to bring back all the geological information produced in the colonial days and to properly archive it at the Nigerian Geological Survey Agency here in Nigeria that can be easily accessed by investors and the universities. We have also succeeded in building a device, an electronic device here in Abuja to monitor the activities of informal miners throughout the country. Last year, we trained over 100 civil servants in the ministry, both locally and abroad.
Mine Diver project accelerated development in the mines and steel industry.
I learned that you embarked on a roadshow. I'd like you to tell me about this, but I want you to keep in mind that we are now in the COVID era of COVID-19. And so I'd like you to look at the indigenous investors as well as the international investors. Now, with international investors, how did they feel about the mining sector in Nigeria in terms of COVID-19 being an opportunistic environment in Nigeria right now?
Well, the roadshows were essentially to market Nigeria as a mining country. Like I said, my predecessors in office, they worked on that. And Nigeria is not taken, even now, as a mining nation. We've always been known with oil and gas, and that's sort of consumed us, our image. So what we're trying to break out and say, look, we're also into mining, and that's what the roadshow is all about. And for us to be authentic, it goes back to what I said earlier about President Muhammadu Buhari putting money in the sector. With the intervention fund that came in 2017, we were able to embark on what you call the NIMEP. NIMEP is essentially National Integrated Mineral Exploration Project. That's NIMEP, N-I-M-E-P. Essentially, that was to gather geological data, which we could market to the outside and say, look, oh, we got gold. And you're not just saying you got gold. You have data to back that up, geoscience data. And this is a very expensive project, about $50 million project.
Wow.
That involved what you call competent persons. Competent persons are geologists that are known, for their work over the years, all over the world. They are known, they're called competent persons, so that whenever they say something, they are believed. So the good thing was that our roadshow was now essentially based on third-party confirmation. Whenever I went on the road, I'll come there and just give a little brief remark. And then we'll allow these experts to talk. And this was, of course, beginning to attract attention. Nigeria was being taken seriously as a mining nation. And we'll get a lot of inquiries. But for COVID, and of course the lockdown in travel, people have been all over this place. Right from when we went to Russia, to London, to South Africa, and of course to Canada. The enthusiasm kept growing because it's actually the same community, the mining community, moves from one location to the other. So the same people who met and we kept repeating the message. And because the NIMEP project itself was growing, so the data that kept coming out of it was very encouraging. Oh, we found gold there. Oh, we found lithium. We found this and all that. And this was not just word of mouth. This was backed by data presented by competent persons.
So this was the game changer for Nigeria.
Yes. That's why I said we could make that projection of 5%. Because now we're beginning to get exponential growth. In the past, we've been crawling. But now, with the data that are crystallizing and the interest we're getting from this major, we know we can make that figure of 5%, I would say, by 2025.
I'm going to take you back to the data. I know that the government has been trying to retrieve Nigeria's colonial geological data from the United Kingdom through the British Geological Survey. Tell me about that, because you've talked about how that was a game changer when you went on your roadshow to the different countries. What more are you doing to embrace that technology and data so that anybody that comes here will see that Nigeria is absolutely endowed in mineral resources?
Well, it's a two-pronged thing. But first and foremost, mining is all about data. Data, data, and data. Because you see, you want to do mining, you want to know, you can't just go blindly somewhere and start digging the ground, thinking, okay, maybe there may be gold there, and then you're going to do a lot of damage. So you must have some reasonable data that tells you what is down there before you embark on it, and then of course you plan the mining. So the first thing, which was all part of this intervention fund, was because, the British were our colonial masters, was to, and they had a lot of data. Because like I said, at that time, in the 1900s...
that's correct.
Mining was a major issue in Nigeria. Yeah. We were the largest exporter of coal from Africa, tin from Jos, coal from Enugu, columbite. Nigeria was quoted copiously on the London Metal Exchange for mining before the advent of oil and gas. All this data that were gathered at that time, of course, were taken out of this country by the British Geological Survey. So part of the intervention fund was to purchase. They're not giving it for free. It's not free. So we're working with the British Geological Survey. A lot of this data were, of course, in the analog form. They are digitizing it and, of course, sending it back to us. We are building a data center here in Abuja here with NGSA. That data, plus what we are now doing, fresh exploration in the NIMEP, is going to be put on that database. Essentially, which is what the community is calling for, international community. They don't want to, until they get to Abuja or to Nigeria before they can find information about what exists in Nigeria. They want to be able to go online. And the Nigerian Geological Survey Agency has that already set up, of course, at different layers. So you can get some data, information, free of charge. Just go online onto that www.ngsa.gov.ng. And of course, map of Nigeria, it tells you there's gold there, there's silver there,
that's amazing.
there's lead, zinc, and all that. Then you can dig deeper. But some of this level, you have to pay a token sum online, and you still get the same information. That's basically what is required by the international community, and we are doing right when it comes to data. And that's why data, of course, must be available, and that's what NGSA is doing. Furthermore, the licensing regime itself, we've migrated from the old system of analog system to the cadastral system. The cadastral system uses coordinates, you know, and instead of the whole system, the old analog system, everything is now digitized, and of course, it's also coming online. This has been developed for us by a German firm. It's called AMC Plus. This is a new system. It's the modern system used all over the world, the cadastral system. Now, from the comfort of your offices, from your home, wherever you are in the world, you can also access this database.
Quick.
About the licenses. I can come to you as a Nigerian and say, look, I hold this license. I want us to develop together, which of course is allowed in partnership. In the past, investors could not confirm the genuineness or otherwise of that without getting to Abuja. But now, somebody coming to you, maybe in Spain, and say, oh, let's develop this gold field together. I have this license. Let's develop it. You can just go online and, of course, ascertain the authenticity, the lifespan of that license, because license, of course, has a lifespan. What's the lifespan? What does it have left? So all this we are putting out there to make Nigeria transparent and attractive to international investors. All this we are doing right is all from Intervention Fund, and of course there's a World Bank project that's sponsoring all that. So we're doing that right, and that's why I said we are poised for that growth. All the efforts of the past are beginning to crystallize now, and then we can have this exponential growth, and then we can achieve that 5% GDP by 2025. That's what we're doing. And one of the results of that is that if I could bring that in now, is the Tor Explorations. This is a Canadian company quoted in Toronto Exchange. They come into Nigeria. They are in Osun now. They've gone through the exploration stage. They are now into the mining stage. They are building the mine, the proper mine.
It's an indigenous...
No, actually, Tor is a Canadian company.
Okay, they're Canadian.
It's a Canadian company, and they are working on gold. The indigenous company is also another company that's doing proper mining. That's an indigenous company that's quoted on the exchange, formed by some bankers. I met them. 2 bankers started. They got people interested, got some funding together, went public, and they got some funds. They are actually exploiting lead zinc in Nasarawa State. And that's something I'm even very proud of.
It's a success story.
Yeah, it's a success story for an indigenous company, and they're doing very well. Not only they're just mining lead zinc, they're also doing beneficiation on their own. They brought in their plants, and they're doing beneficiation. So they're not just going to export raw ore. Whatever they're bringing out, they're processing to before they export.
The Nigeria Geological Survey Agency, a parastatal of the Federal Ministry of Mines and Steel Development, was established as Geological Survey Department in 1919. Its establishing act as an agency came into force in 2006. This empowers the agency to carry out geoscientific research for mineral resources, geohazard monitoring, and exploration for mineral resources. Some of its core functions include geological mapping, geophysical survey, marine and coastal geological surveys, map production, and remote sensing interpretation. The agency provides relevant and up-to-date geoscience information for economic development.
The Nigerian Geological Survey has a record of over 100 years of data collection, dissemination, and archiving. We also provide consultancy services to guide the exploration and mining sector in the country. We have a robust database and a well-equipped geoscience research laboratory to service the sector. We are committed to effective service delivery.
For more information, visit our websites on www.ngsa.gov.ng and nimep.ngsa.gov.ng. Nigeria Geological Survey Agency, moving the rock.
I want us to look at the Legislative Act, the Mining Act. What I've learned in working with government is that no matter how successful the ministry is, it's whether it's going to get support in terms of reforms. What are some of the things that you see that can be done to assist you in terms of reforming the Mining Act to enable you to reach your targets?
Well, a lot of initiatives have started, which is a good thing. The Mining Act we use currently is the Mining Act of 2007. And if you look, that's about 13 years now. There are a lot of things that have happened, present realities, that need some tweaking. So even at the ministry level, we've started that process. I think, within the last 2-3 weeks, we send out memo for people to bring in contribution to the amendments that they would like to see in the Mining Act. Things that we've noticed that the Mining Act did not cover properly, things we need to deepen, so we're in the process of that. When that is completed, we go to the stakeholders before we go to the National Assembly. But like you said, this night assembly is very cooperative and is working in government. And something that's very interesting and very good for our sector as well, emanated from the Assembly itself, from the House of Rep. They are sponsoring a bill on local content development.
For mining?
Yes, of course. Wow. Oh, it's on every sector, affects mining as well. The bill is actually sponsored from the House of Rep itself. And they've sent the proposed bill to us to have an input. I think just yesterday, we just sent that back with our own input. It's been with us for about a few weeks. We've looked at their proposals as regards the mining sector. What they're doing at the local content bill is affecting all sectors.
Wow. Construction,
mining, oil and gas, what have you. But the sector that affects, the part that affects was sent to us for our input, and that's a good thing. It's a beautiful initiative, and of course, we've looked at it and smoothed out some rough edges. We've introduced some new things that I think we should be there. It's gone back to them. Before it's eventually passed, it will go through a public presentation where stakeholders can make comments and all that, and then before the law is finalized and then passed through the parliament and sent to president for assent. So basically, this present Ninth Assembly, National Assembly, is doing wonders and we're working very well with them.
Excellent. There's something I have to talk about, which is funding. You've stated over and over again that this is a president that, more than any other president, he has been able to put funding. If you were to get more funding, what are some of the things that could be done with more funding?
We need to thank him for what he has done. One of the things I'm thinking as justification is the result from the NIMEP activity. You know, for the NIMEP, we chose about 5 minerals. Nigeria has 44 minerals identified to date, 44. But the kind of funding, the $50 million that we have for that activity, could only cover 5 minerals.
Wow.
Yes. We've done exploitation on gold, in iron ore, lead, zinc, and all that. Now, what we're saying that, we need to do more. Not just to expand the scope to cover more minerals, but even to deepen the activity in some of these ones that have been done. We've got some data now on gold. But if we were to extend our activity, this exploration activity, we'll get to what we call bankable data. And this is what investors are looking for. No bank will actually, banks are averse to risk, will actually put money into exploration. Most banks won't do that, because what exploration simply means is I have an inkling that I can find gold there. I need to spend money to determine whether it's actually there and what quantum is there. If I do the exploration, I might get the gold there and find out at the depth or where the gold occurs, it's not commercially viable. Commercial viability will mean what's the quantum there, what's the price I'll realize, and what's the cost of getting it out. Now, by the time you get to that realization, you spend so much money because exploration itself is very expensive. All the activities you do, all the drilling. Now, you've spent so much money and you come to the realization that it's not commercially viable. Who carries the can? That's why banks don't fund exploration. But everybody's happy when you do exploration and you come to what you call a bankable data. I've come to a situation as, oh, the problem results in that place 1 million ounces of gold. I know that the present rate of gold is selling now, that would be about 1.7 trillion, or is it billion dollars that gold is now selling. If you multiply by 1 million, that's 1.7 trillion dollars. That's the worth of that gold. Everybody will put money there. You know the value
bankable.
and all that. Yeah, that's bankable. Now, that's what we need to do for most of our minerals. In the exploration project of NIMEP, we've discovered accidentally, while we are saying we are doing coal is part of the 5 that we're doing coal, we are doing gold, we are doing lead, we've come across some minerals of the future, like lithium, like cobalt, like nickel, that we don't even know was there. It was not our target, but we found traces. Those ones we need to do further exploration to know what is there, dig deeper. Is it worth it? It's not. So you need funding for all that. Apart from all the reforms that are going on, taking all our activity into the digital world and all that. So it's funding is required for the industry. Also, for us to create the kind of jobs that we want from the artisanal miners, to create jobs, because that's part of our mandate. We didn't say that actually. It's diversify revenue and of course create jobs. We need to spend money. Like I said, give value for those people, equipment, training on safety and all that. We extend this to them, and of course, before we can realize, all this takes a lot of money.
Excellent. And I know I'm getting the time out, but I would be remiss if I did not ask this question. As a woman that is a gender-sensitive woman, there are women in the mining sector, and somebody that grew up around sisters. I would like to take this opportunity to advocate for women that are in the mining sector. How do you create an impact that protects them, that supports them, that gets them to actually participate equally in the sector that is mostly dominated by our male counterparts?
Well, at the level of mining that we have currently in the country, which is mostly non-skilled, artisanal, we have a lot of women doing that, and they do a lot of unskilled laborers.
Excellent.
And by the involvement of women in mining, they also drag in children. That's what we found out. That's the negative side. Most of these women may be nursing mothers, or they have kids who start, so they drag the children into mining. So we had a pilot project which was very successful. What we did essentially was to provide implements and some simple equipment for these women, like wheelbarrows, shovels, and all that. And at the same time, build classrooms and furnish those classrooms.
I was just going to say a daycare.
And it worked. We've tried it in 2 communities. And that's why we need additional funding as well, because we need to expand this. Now, wherever we found women in such activity with their kids, we said, look, okay, what the woman needs a child for is, okay, as a skilled labor, the child carries the head pan from one point to the other. Why don't you give a wheelbarrow and you can let the child go to school? And then we'll build the classrooms very close by, put furniture in the classroom, and the enrollment has gone up in the 2 communities where we tried them.
Wow.
It's really worked. So it's putting the women to work and taking the children out of the mining fields into the classroom.
Education.
So, yes, to give them education. So a 2-pronged thing that has worked for us. And this we intend to build on. So to make sure that at least women should, and I must say, at a higher level, there are women who are actually skilled, who are mining engineers, who are geologists. And they form an organization, Women in Mining in Nigeria. And it's a formidable one, interacting with their international counterparts. They come in here, my office is always open, and of course they bring ideas on how we can collaborate, of course, to improve the lot of women in mining. So we're constantly doing so much for women.
Excellent. This is a great place to end it. There's so much we could talk about, and I know I have to come back. But for now, thank you so much for hosting us, and thank you so much for being in Amoi Unplugged.
Thank you so much.
Excellent.
It was all mine.
Need I say more? I'm sure you enjoyed that interview. Till I come your way again, let's continue the conversation on our social media platform. I am Chioma IKEJIANI. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, Stay safe and goodbye.